Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am your host, Edgar De Jesus, and yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas, and today we're in studio with the Cannonball King himself, Spider.
We're sort of out here. Technical difficulties.
Today, we're talking to Alicia Stevens. We're going to talk about algae. We're going to talk about in-season pool problems. You know, we've gotten bombarded with a lot of stuff. We called Alicia. She dropped everything that she was doing, Zach, to come out here, so we really appreciate that. But before we do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk, and we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the Ultimate Pool Tools, the SPPA, Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, and Hayward Pool Products. We want to thank them for their continued support. Mr. Zacharias, what's going on, brother?
A lot. I don't know if you've noticed my complexion has darkened a little bit in the last few weeks. I've been it's been really busy around here, but I feel like every time we transition from cool weather to warm weather, it's kind of a rush of kind of getting things aligned and figuring that out. And so I've been jumping out in the field and trying to help out where I can. The guys have been going crazy, and we've had, I think I talked about it last week, just a tremendous amount of rain this year. And I don't know if you guys saw that tropical storm that was in the Gulf, and fortunately, I think it shifted south a little bit more, and so we kind of caught the tail end of it. But now today, they're showing that there's a second tropical system developing down there. So I'm just crossing my fingers and praying that it doesn't bring us in much more rain. But other than that, we're doing good. I'm excited to have Alicia here today. I was joking that I think she was summoned by all of the pool pros and the conversations we've been having lately, but we're going to get into a lot of that today, and I'm excited to do some learning.
We definitely have to get our learning on today. There's a lot of questions. Alicia,
What's going on?
it's always exciting to have you back.
First of all, if we're not talking netting and jetting, I'm out.
You're out?
I'm out.
This may be a splashing and dashing day.
It might be. Second of all, reigning Marco Polo champion, I'm going to issue a challenge. I think I can unseat you, and then I will forever be in your intro. So next time we have an opportunity, I'm going to have to challenge you to Marco Polo.
To Marco Polo?
Uh-huh.
You know what? I think I'm going to accept that challenge.
Okay, we'll see.
I
You might
think
have
so.
to change your title. So
I do have to say that what we do need to do is next time I need to be able to Zach to zip back and just kind of enjoy the podcast. I think you're ready to just like host this thing the next time that you're out here.
I'm in. Let's do it.
So
You know me. I can talk.
you know, because I was doing the intro, and right before we went live, I'm like go to
Yeah.
see if you were going to just kind of jump in and take
We're
it.
not talking splashing and dashing, and no, I could do most of it. I can do most
Yeah.
of it. So, yeah. No, you just say the word. I'm in.
Oh, you're in.
I can
See?
talk
The
to
problem
anybody.
is he throws it on you at the very last second, like right before you got to go.
That's okay. Somebody asked me once, "Do you still get nervous?" I'm like, "Nah, I just like to talk a lot."
You're like, not anymore. You're like, yeah, don't phase no more, right?
No, not
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. So-
2 people, 1,000 people, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Hey, I do want to thank you, Alicia, for coming out. I know that, we called you at the last minute because we've been getting bombarded with a lot of calls with a lot of in-season problems. Zach's been getting bombarded with calls as well with regards to issues with the pools and stuff like that. And we love you just because you're Alicia, right? Like that's the first thing. But the fact that we called you and we're like, hey, here's something that we want to do. I mean, for you to just kind of drop everything that you're doing and jump on a plane and come out here and spend some time with us, we really appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I saw the big green pool in the sky, and I followed my ass. I'm coming. Hold on.
She followed the algae all the way out here. So, anyways, John is out today. He is he got a call at 3:00 in the morning about a pool issue, and so he was.
It better be dire for somebody to call me at 3 in the morning with a pool issue, and I just can't imagine what's that dire.
It gets there, and they're like, "Oh, the light's not coming on."
Right? It
Right.
smells
And-
funny.
Knowing John, he wasn't asleep yet, right?
Well, but the challenge with John is, how he is. Like, he can get that at 3:00 in the morning, and know that he can't go out till like 6:00 in the morning. But like in his nature, it's like he wants to solve the issue and be able to
So
check
he's up.
and move it. So
He's
he's up, and
yeah.
now he probably went to bed at what 2:30, Zach, and then got up
Yeah.
at 3 with the text, and that's all that you got,
I had a full night's sleep. How long was it? 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, anyways, Alicia was out yesterday. We had a great time in studio. We shot some new content, so that was kind of
Stay tuned.
exciting.
Yeah,
So we're gonna try to put that out next week because typical Alicia fashion, you just crushed it and it was like action and then cut and we're done. So
I told you I do like to talk.
yeah, so
But it was a good day. It was a good day.
it was a good day.
I'm looking
And,
forward to seeing it.
and we
Yep.
mixed it up. We went to a different studio.
We did, yeah.
So we kind of threw everybody for a little curveball there.
Yeah, when you start posting outtakes, I'm just going to break social media for a few days.
Gonna give you a hint. Pew 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 pew. I'm posting that one. That one's going up on Monday. On Monday.
The problem when you keep rolling is you just keep rolling.
So Zach, sorry, we were joking around. And Spider, have you heard on social media that girls can't make machine gun noises? Have you guys heard that before?
I did not know that was a
Uh-uh.
thing.
You did not know that. So let me do this. Spider, give me the sound of shooting a machine gun. Do it. Just do it.
I don't know if I can.
Come on, Spider. Zach.
He's looking for a button on
I
his
know.
side.
You see,
You saw it.
It's that
Zach
one.
can't even see me. He knew what I was doing.
his hand was going like this on the screen.
I was
So,
like, I know I got one
Yeah.
somewhere.
Zach, do a machine gun, like from a boy, like when you were a kid playing. Do the sound of a machine gun.
What was that?
You
I
were
think
muted.
Zoom cut it out.
You were muted. Do it again.
You got.
Do it again.
Like,
There you go.
There you go. Watch, Alicia.
I'm
Machine
not
gun.
falling for it twice.
Machine gun. Come on. Show everybody your machine gun. She stepped up her game because yesterday her machine gun was pew 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 pew.
No,
That
I
was her-
followed it with pew 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 pew.
that was her machine gun.
Yeah,
and-
but it was rolling, so
Yeah. So I have that. So we're gonna definitely post that.
I had time to practice.
on
Yeah,
you-
I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah, you thought about it all night. That's why you changed
what's
it up.
your machine gun, Edgar? Come on.
Mine would be more like boy type. But do you see how the hands go? Like when you do it as a kid, you like go. And she was pew pewing me with a machine gun.
I was. You're not wrong. I had 2 machine guns.
So, but the funny thing is, it was so like I was totally like just joking with her, and she just like stepped right into it, and then she pulled out, what was that, a bazooka or a shotgun? She just kept pulling out all her guns and kept.
Well, he started the statement
Yeah.
with "girls can't," and whatever came next, I was going to do. So, like, don't start a statement with "girls can't" and expect me not to step up to the plate.
What kind of content were you guys filming
Yeah.
yesterday?
It was explosive.
It was the bomb. It was some good stuff, Zach, which I'm going to send to you separate so
Yeah.
that you could have it because I know that you're going to get that. So, anyways, a big shout out to Eric Nielsen, which is on. Big shout out. Todd, Ripple Effects. I got your message, by the way, Todd. I will send you some stuff over. I appreciate that. Robert's on. Michael, First Response. Good morning to everybody out there that is out there hustling nice and early today. Big shout out to Salome Pool Care out there as well. W Pools, our boy JJ Flawless must be doing service out there and he's watching online. So, Mr. Joey Busick, what's going on? Big shout out to you, brother, out there. Phoenix Pools. Big shout out to all you guys out there on Instagram as well. I appreciate you guys coming on. Hey, we're doing a deep dive today into algae. We're doing a deep dive into in-season pool problems. We have Alicia Stevens in-house, so stay tuned because we've got some great stuff that's coming in. Jeanette, I was kind of missing you already. You're kind of always one of the first ones on. Good morning. That's probably because we started late.
That's
so
probably, she got tired of waiting on us.
Yeah. So anyway, so big shout out to everybody out there. Thank you so much for being on and listening, even though it's a hot day out there and everybody's hustling already. So, all right, let me get through a couple things so that we can jump right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is Women's Summit 28th, 29th. Alicia is actually going to open the event. She's going to MC the event.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it always.
You want to give us a little bit of an insight as to what you're, or no, is it still?
I'm going to talk about my journey in the pool industry and kind of as a female working my way through different parts of my career. I'm going to talk about that journey and some of the obstacles I've overcome and some of the people that have helped me along the way. So I'm excited. Be a little humor mixed in because honestly, my career goal is to be a stand-up comedian. So if I didn't put some humor in, it wouldn't work for me, but it'll be a good time.
Thank you,
well
Spider.
played, Spider.
Well played, my friend. Well played.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely.
We'll have some laughs. We'll talk pools. We'll talk people. We'll talk life. So I'm looking forward to it.
All that fun stuff. So believe it or not, we are at 80 women already.
Awesome.
So we are close to being sold out. So if you're thinking about going out there, you might want to grab one of those tickets very quickly because we will sell out like last year. So we are going to start that series with Alicia, Breaking Boundaries, her story of discovery, passion, and making a difference. I love that title, by the way. You killed it, as usual, with your titles.
Thank you.
And then after that, we're going to have driving results through accountability. That'll be Leanne. After that, we will have maintaining company culture. That'll be Carrie David from SRS Distribution. And then Doreen is going to do emotional intelligence in effective leadership. It's a great class. If you haven't listened to that podcast, she kind of does a little bit of a deep dive into it. So I think it was Zach, 2 podcasts ago?
Yeah.
Three podcasts ago. Go back, listen to it. You'll see Doreen on there. Great one. And then our friend Jamie Novak is going to be doing a public speaking workshop. So looking forward to that one.
I have seen that a couple of different versions of that now, and she has put together a really great workshop and does a good job of leading her way through talking about effective communication and the cost of ineffective communication and just overall skills and things that go with that. So that's one you definitely don't want to miss.
Yeah, some great stuff. Hey, big shout out here to Todd Pieri. Thanks for coming on, Todd. Official Raypack has joined us as well. Brian, what's going on? Flores Pool Care, big shout out to you. And of course, I think we're gonna give her a #1 fan badge, Zach. I think she deserves it. Who is it? Who am I talking about? Female #1 fan.
I'm thinking Jeanette or Maria.
Tori
Shell?
Nicholas.
Huh?
Tori Nicholas.
Mom, what's up? I was actually just making a note. Well, yeah, that's her. Hey, Mom.
So big shout out to your mom out there. I really love that she comes on all the time, that she comments, that she posts. I really appreciate that.
It does not matter how old you get, you still want your mom to be proud of you.
Yeah.
So.
and I think that's why I enjoy it the most, just because I miss my mom so much. So when I see other moms like be so supported and stuff like that, makes me think about my mom. So anyways, sorry, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Michael, First Response, what's going on? Clearwater Pool and Spa. Big shout out to all you guys. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about the nasty word algae today, and Alicia's going to take us to school on that one. So stay tuned, everybody. Next thing that we're going to do is Sabina Hickman is going to be doing a class on balancing career and family, strategies for success. And then we're going to be doing breaking up with burnout, and that is Tracy Bayer.
Yep.
And Tracy Bayer. And then we have Francine Gonzalez that's going to be sharing her story into the industry, and she is now the president of Legoland Water Parks. Legoland.
Interesting, yeah.
A lot of great stuff.
Is it called the building blocks of my career, or?
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to change that.
that.
Dang. And see how she comes up with it that quick, Zach? It's like,
Yeah,
boom,
that
like,
was gold.
that would have taken me like 6 years to come up with that one. So I'm going to have to change that. You know what? Whoever talks next, I'm going to be typing over here, changing that. So, and then Stacy Gerhardt is going to be out. She is the VP and GM of Raypack, and she's going to be telling her story of staying true to herself and her journey into the industry. So we're looking forward to that. The next thing I want to talk about really quick is the spotlights and insights. If you are not getting that in your inbox, go to poolnation.com, enter your email address. The very first issue ever was Alicia Stevens on the cover.
I still read that periodically. That was quite an honor. So thank you. I appreciate that very much. And the interview process was fantastic. We had a good time.
It was an amazing interview right there, an amazing story. So the other thing that we do on those is we have a vendor that normally does a promo. So right now, Aquastar is doing $300 off a pump, and they will send you actuator. They will send you 3-way valves over there. So that's about $500 worth of savings right there. So go get that. The next thing is the Pool Nation Conference, which is going to be November 9th, 10th, and 11th. And Alicia is going to be training a couple classes for this as well, plus the Retail Summit, plus the show, plus the awards.
Oh, I'm tired already.
Holy
Plus,
cow.
we have a booth there, and I have like another job too. So
You mean you don't work for Pool Nation?
depends on the day, Edgar.
You're going to have to put, right, Biolab / Pool Nation, right? So
Definitely like the extra beetle of Pool Nation.
That's right. The fifth beetle.
The
Yeah.
fifth beat. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. We're going to have to use that too. We're going to have to use it on there. So, and so we're going to be focusing on 4 different training sections. We're going to be doing technical. We're going to be doing hands-on. We're going to be doing business and retail. Each one of those will have about anywhere from 10 to 13 different classes. It'll be a little bit different because what we're doing is it's curriculum-based. So we've put together a curriculum, including, Alicia that's going to teach a couple classes, and every class is going to build on the prior class. And really the goal of it is to be able to go back to work the next day and be able to put into play what you've learned, the day before. And then we have a special surprise that we're going to be announcing soon. There's going to be an event that we're going to be doing. So we'll announce that here pretty soon. I was talking to Alicia about it, Zach, kind of trying to get all the details of how we're going to set it all up and all that fun stuff. So excited about that.
It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, Waves for Change. Big shout out to you out there. Americo Figueroa. Big shout out to you as well. Thanks for jumping on so much. And Jeanette is saying hi, Alicia.
Hello, Jeanette. Always good to hear from you.
So.
She's wonderful.
All right. So, Alicia, you ready? I know that we're already.
Always ready.
We started a little bit late and we're already, but so we had an issue where, and I think we've seen it in the industry this summer. And the only thing that I can think of, and Zach and I were talking about this, and we're just kind of trying to figure out why are so many people struggling with algae this year?
God, I think there's a couple different reasons. One, as Zach said, the weather. Anytime that you're dumping in rainwater, then you end up with runoff, and you end up with all sorts of stuff that come into the pool. You're just making it harder to keep the pool balanced. Anytime the pool's not balanced, you're more likely to have problems. Algae being probably the most prevalent one that comes from that. So weather certainly has an impact on that. I think another part of it, and this is my opinion, let me be clear about that. This is just my opinion, is that in our society of, everything's gotten expensive and, inflation and all that sort of stuff, and people are trying to cut corners where they can. I think that pools are one place that a lot of people are trying to cut some corners, and we're cutting out some things that maybe limiting the amount of chlorine that we're trying to use, or not putting in a preventative algicide because we can cut that cost out and think we can manage without it. Ultimately, we're trying to save money, and I get it. We're all doing it, but at the same time, when you cut some of those corners, you don't leave yourself any room for error. So when error occurs, whether it's 6 inches of rain or you forget to do something or whatever, your pump goes off, then you're a lot more likely to have issues. So to me, it's just a combination of those. Weather is always going to be an impact. But I also think that people's desire to save a dollar here and there is probably leading to some of that too.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really great
Again,
point.
my opinion, but
No,
I see the way people approach things.
It's a
Yeah.
great point.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, and somebody sent me a message the other day, and they sent me an invoice, pre-COVID, and case of chlorine was $8 back then, and
Mhm.
now you're up to what, $25, Zach, on a case of chlorine.
Mhm.
So, and if you have a homeowner that really isn't used to taking care of the pool and stuff like that, right? Then, like you said, they're going to kind of cut corners. And
Mhm.
now, if they're during the summertime, they're having to buy 2 cases of chlorine or 3. You're already up to $75 just right there, right?
Right. And,
So,
and you're looking for a way to use less or make it last longer. And, when you pair that with a lot of rain or super, hot weather or whatever it is, then that's when you start to run into trouble with that.
yeah, I totally agree with that. And this year, Zach, I think one of the things for us, at least in Texas, I don't know how, and I know California has too, but the amount of rain that we have gotten has been excessive. Because what's that, Zach?
I was going to say, did you see my face just change? Because it literally just started pouring outside. I can hear it on the building.
But I think we're up where I'm at in Dallas. I think we're like either 6 or 8 inches above it was more than double what we normally get.
And it's hot, you pair that with heat and you end up with green pools a lot.
Right.
So
You got a lot of that water coming in, eating up that chlorine that's in there, and then you have somebody cutting corners. Recipe for disaster.
for sure. And then you end up with green pools and then it costs you X number of dollars to clean that up and you didn't end up saving any money in the first place. But
Yeah. And I mean, Zach, would you be able to put a number, maybe you, Alicia, of a pool turns green? Let's just say that a pool turns green, right? Like it's not a swamp. It just turns that green. You can see the bottom. On average, Zach, what would you say that you're going to spend in chemicals to be able to flip that?
And chemicals alone,
Chemicals alone.
you're easily over $30-$40.
Oh, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah, and I'm saying easily on a visit, and so that's what's tough is with the price of chemicals. It's like if you have one little error and you end up with even the slightest bit of algae or problem, and you have to send someone out there or go out there and you have to put stuff in the pool to do it. I mean, you're upside down on that month of service real quick.
well, and you factor into that. That's if the problem's not that bad. But you said yourself, Zach, you're busy. The pool starts to turn green. You may not get to it for a day or two before you can send somebody out. Well, then it's really green. And so now you're even more product in, more time, more visit, more energy to get it cleaned up. And, and you're right, you're upside down.
Yeah, because Zach, you look at it, even if you needed to use minimum, let's say that you're trying to just go bare minimum, right? And you use 2 cases of chlorine, that's already $50.
Yeah.
And I would dare to say that it's probably a lot more than that, right? Like you're gonna have to clean the filter, you're gonna have to do it. Somebody's looking at least $200 easy.
Well, and
We had
go
one
ahead.
go bad. It's a giant pool, and I think there's a little bit of a leak going on, and we've kind of determined that through the process and stuff. But it got pretty bad, and I went out there, and it took me days. And I was on the phone with John almost every day, like, dude, what am I doing wrong here? And he's coaching me and guiding me. But when it was all said and done, and I was just doing some rough math, we probably put $400 or $500 worth
See?
of chemicals over multiple days. And I'm sitting there going, man, we're going to have to execute on this pool perfectly for the next year, to start pulling back out of this deficit that we just created. And the tricky thing right now is it's kind of like, I'm the person that's like, whose fault is it truly? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to penalize my awesome customer for it, but at the same time, if it were a leak that were pinpointed, should we be charging them, or are we just going to eat it and move on? So it's kind of a tricky situation, and I've been having these conversations with people locally that I know, and it's kind of that same thing, like, oh man, I should charge them for that, but I think I'm just going to take care of it and move on. But with the cost of things, we as business owners have to start taking a real hard look and recouping some of those costs when it's not our fault.
Well, and one thing that I would kind of challenge, especially to service people, is I teach a lot of classes, right? You guys know that I teach some for you, teach them in the industry, and I always ask when I talk about algae at all, is how many of you use a preventative algicide? Most people don't, right? And that's just the way of it. Like, no. We just rely on our chlorine to do the work and all that sort of stuff. And then even as we've been talking about cleaning up, it's, chlorine. And chlorine is an algicide. Don't get me wrong. It kills most types of algae very, very effectively. But at the same time, chlorine's number one job in a pool. Now I'm going into teacher mode. Chlorine's number one job in a pool is not to kill algae.
Mhm.
Chlorine's number one job in a pool is to kill bacteria. That's, it's a sanitizer. That's what it's for. So we want it to be available for that. When we're relying on it to kill algae, we're using more of it because it's got more work to do. And, I ask service people all the time, how many times, and Zach, maybe I'll ask you, how many times do your guys go to a pool and they pull a water sample and the chlorine level's 0? It happens all the time, right? Especially as weather gets warmer or you've had that 6 inches of rain or whatever it is. And week after week, you may be doing everything right. You're shocking, you're filling the chlorinator, however you're sanitizing. And every time you come up to that pool, it's 0. You're like, okay, that's all right. I'll just put more in. But any day that pool sits at 0, first of all, you're not killing bacteria, which is not a good thing in a pool, but also you've got no extra help against something like algae. So your chlorine's done. It's used up. You ask too much of it, and now there's none left, and you've got nothing left in there to help prevent algae. So then the pool goes green. Something as simple as a preventative algicide, putting that in, first of all, your chlorine goes in and says, okay, I've got a job to do. What is it? I need to kill bacteria. But if it runs into an algae cell, it's going to kill that first and get used up. Putting in a preventative algicide, you go in, the preventative algicide kills the algae cells. So chlorine, all it has to do is kill bacteria and move on. So it lasts longer. You're less likely to come to a pool where it's at 0 because you didn't ask it to do as much work as possible. And even if it does go to 0, which can happen, especially with 6 inches of rain, you've got that preventative algicide in there to keep doing the algae part of the work. It's not going to kill bacteria, but it'll keep doing the algae part of the work. So it's just, when you talk about price and getting, starting to get a pull back out of that pool, Zach, factoring in the cost of an algicide to what you charge will serve you better than trying to overcome what happens when the pool goes green and you end up eating, the cost of getting it cleaned up again. So it's, it's money now or money later. And that's always a tough conversation to have. But just adding that preventative algicide on a weekly basis, it just eases up on some of what you're asking your chlorine to do. And you're more likely to not have issues with it.
Yeah, it makes total sense, right? And I think a lot of people are just like trying, like we don't want to spend extra money. We don't want to do.
Yeah.
But look, during the summertime, the last thing that you want to do is turn that corner and have a green pool, right? And it happens to the best of them out there, right? There's just different circumstances where last week the pool was beautiful and you turned around and you walk in and it looks like they installed a putting green, right? You're just like, whoa. And it makes total sense. And, the analogy is, obviously, you have the soldiers in the field, which is the chlorine doing the job, right? You call in air support, right? And so that air support is going to be that algicide in there constantly, providing that support so that, you have more in the field to be able to work with.
But don't wait till the soldiers are in trouble to call in the air support.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need them to come in and go pew pew.
I was expecting Spider to go boom.
He's still looking for the machine gun sound on his board. I'll give him a minute.
She's not lying.
Oh, Spider, they're burning you over there, buddy. Are you clicking the download button and trying to save it onto the board? So anyways, so let's do this. I wanted to talk about really quick. I want to do the podcast today and kind of break down. And so maybe you can talk to us, let's go through like green algae, yellow algae. Let's talk a little bit about mustard. And then maybe at the end, what we could do is tell people, kind of what are the products that they can kind of use to manage each one of them. So what would you say is this time of the year is going to be the biggest problem of algae? Which one?
It depends on how you classify biggest, quite honestly.
mhm.
The most common algae, which could be the biggest, is green algae by far. Green algae is, I always say, it's the easiest one to get and it's the easiest one to get rid of because it's the way it grows, it's the way it reproduces. The most common type of green algae, which is chlorella, is very easy. I mean, you can go from a clear pool to a green pool overnight with that because it's able to grow and reproduce so fast. So if you're talking about what you're most likely to get, green algae would be the biggest problem. If you're talking about what can be the most frustrating and the hardest to get rid of, then yellow or mustard algae is definitely, and I use those words interchangeably, yellow or mustard, but that would be a little harder to get rid of and maybe harder to keep under control. So it really just depends on how you're looking at it.
Mm-hmm. And so, easiest way to get rid of that green.
So green algae is funny. For the most part, if you wanted to rely on chlorine works pretty well on most green algae. And chlorine to a certain, you get it to a high enough level, then it's very, very effective. And chlorine just works by, it basically pokes a hole in the algae cell, wiggles its way in, simplifying, honestly. So for all you PhD people out there, don't come after me. I'm simplifying, but you poke a hole in the cell wall, chlorine molecule wiggles its way inside the algae and it scrambles up the guts and kills it. It's very effective at what it does for the most part. So if you wanted to come out green algae and just put a whole bunch of chlorine in to get rid of it, most of the time that's effective. It may not be the fastest way to get rid of it because there's tons of algicides out there that work differently than the way chlorine works that can be faster and easier to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. We have polyquat algicides and quat-based algicides. Those are 50 and 60% algicides. Everybody's, familiar with one version or another of those. They work a little differently than chlorine. So what they do is, I know you like this analogy, but if you picture a knight with a sword, right, they would basically poke a hole in the algae cell. And then instead of wiggling their way inside and scrambling up the inside of the cell, those quats and polyquats poke a hole and then they kind of step back and let the guts of the cell come out. And as I said, if I poked you in the gut with a sword and your guts were coming out, Edgar, would you die?
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, most likely, probably very loud and dramatic and all that stuff, but but you would die. So quats and polyquats work differently than that, but they tend to be a little slower just because, they're not actively wiggling their way inside. They just kind of poke the hole and let nature take its course. So a different way, but that's why they're so good at prevention is because we don't need them to work fast. We just need them to be steady. But then you factor in something like copper, and copper is one of the biggest, ingredients we find in a lot of the strong troubleshooting algicides. Copper is a little bit different. Algae actually ingests it. I always say it's like a poison cupcake, right? So who doesn't want a cupcake? And algae ingests that copper molecule, and then it kind of shuts down all the enzymatic processes that keep the algae alive. And it's more like a very, very fast-acting poison. So there's different ways that you can approach killing algae at different speeds. So, most green algae, if you wanted to just, as we were saying, shock the heck out of it, then will that take care of it? Sure, it certainly can, if that's how you choose to do it. Would maybe a copper-based algicide work faster? Probably. And then you have to weigh the cost of, 2 cases of chlorine versus what about a treatment dose of an algicide plus a normal shock treatment, and you have to figure out which one works for you. But green algae, like I said, for the most part, is pretty easy to get rid of. Now, we did some research at Biolab. We started this research, it's probably been 3 years ago. When I say we, wasn't me personally, but, we have these really cool nerdy labs with people in them in white lab coats and safety goggles, and they're a lot smarter than I am, trust me. So it's always interesting to walk around our building and see what they're working on. But we did a bunch of algae research. And in the course of doing that research, we have like a pool park out behind our corporate office where we have some in-ground pools. Well, they're above ground in-ground pools. That's a whole different story. And we use pop-up pools and all sorts of stuff. But we grew a whole bunch of algae, and then we classified it, saw what we were growing, and then we figured out the best way to kill it. And for most green algae, like chlorella, which is the most common, even just 0.5 parts per million of chlorine will take care of it. But we did find some other green algae that was a little more difficult to treat. One of our main algicide formulas that we use is copper-based for troubleshooting. And one of those types of algae didn't really respond that well to copper. mean, you could get it eventually if you put enough copper in there. I mean, anybody can die if you give them enough cupcakes, but but it didn't respond the way we thought it would. So it's always kind of trying to figure out what the best way is. And my best advice is, if you have a way that you're doing it, maybe you want to use just chlorine, and you do that, and it doesn't respond the way you expect it to, try something else. Don't just do it again, because you've probably got an algae that you can't really tell what it is, but it may not respond as well to chlorine. Or if you're used to using a copper-based algicide and you do that and it doesn't work, don't just go back to the copper-based algicide. Try something different, because there are just different types of algae. And when you're standing by the pool, all you can see is it's green. You know, I could say, well, it's one of 10 different classifications and they all have different characteristics, but all you can tell, because you don't carry a nerdy microscope around, right? But I am a big nerd. I probably have carried a microscope around before, but you can't tell that. All you can tell is it's green, and you can only react to the color because that's what you're able to use. But so green algae is, you know, as a rule, pretty easy to get rid of. But sometimes you run into that one. And Zach, you've probably seen it. You know, you do a lot of real world pool troubleshooting. You've seen that pool where you expect something to happen and you do the prescription you always do, and you're like, well, nothing happened. You know, why didn't that work? And in reality, what we think is in there, which to us all green algae is the same, it really isn't. There's a lot of different kinds of green algae, and they do respond differently. So we'll talk products in a little while. I'll talk about, you know, kind of how we got around that problem and how we approached it, because ultimately it's not realistic for us to really try and figure out what it is. We need things that will kill everything regardless of what it is.
Right.
So.
I want to ask, can you talk about some of the visual characteristics, like as a pool pro walking into the backyard, and maybe I'm not very familiar with algae, and I have an algae pool. Like, what are some of the characteristics? I mean, I know we've got green, we've got yellow, but are there other visual cues that someone can see to kind of highlight, you know, okay, I'm probably dealing more with this type of algae, or I'm probably dealing more with that type of algae?
That's the problem, Zach, in pools, is there's really not a good way for you to glance at it, and other than the fact that it's green. You know, in green algae, there's something called, you know, we have chlorella, which I talked about. There's something called syndesmus. We have hematococcus. There's a whole bunch of different things. But to stand poolside and look down into the water, you can't tell the difference between them. It's just green. And honestly, what we did find in our research is most samples that we pulled weren't just one kind anyway. There was usually a mixture of different kinds. So you're not often going to pull a sample and say, oh, that's all chlorella. It's not, you know, it's got a mixture of other things in it. So unfortunately, I mean, my approach is, can I see the bottom green, you know, can I see the bottom or not? And then I just adjust the severity of what I'm doing based on that. But as far as being able to tell exactly what you're dealing with, other than color, you can't really determine that, which is why an approach that will take care of everything is most important. We've
had a lot of yellow this year in our market, and
I've heard that.
I've gone to some pools, and it's a light skiff across the entire surface of the pool that when you brush, it's easily like dusted off. And then I've seen a yellow that is more embedded and kind of attached to the plaster. It's a little more, it's got a yellow color, and it's a little harder to brush off. Is this dealing with different species of yellow algae that have different characteristics, or am I misidentifying it in that case?
Most yellow algae, to my knowledge, and I certainly don't know everything about algae, but most yellow algae doesn't stick to surfaces, quite honestly.
Most yellow doesn't? Is that what you said?
Doesn't stick.
Doesn't stick.
It lays on the surface, but
Okay.
it doesn't, like, usually, like you described it, you put your brush on it and it just fluffs right up into the water, and then you walk away and it falls right back in the same spot. That's one of the characteristics, actually, of yellow algae is, you know, you brush it away and it just comes right back to the same place. So as far as sticking to the surface, it's possible that maybe there's some scale or something there that it's sticking to, and that's possible. But the characteristics of the algae itself, none of the, you know, there's two main types of yellow algae that we found and worked on treating when we did our research. But those characteristics, none of them were really anything that stuck to the surface. Black algae is really the only thing that sticks tightly to a surface. So,
But I know what you're talking about, Zach, because I've had that too, where it's like you get that, and I don't know what it is, obviously, but it's that yellow algae, and it doesn't. You can pull out the wire brush and you scrub that sucker, and it's still on there.
that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's yellow.
Yep.
But I know the characteristic of yellow is that you put your brush down and it goes off. And it's one of those ones where you like scrub and then you walk around the corner, you're like, got it, good. And then you walk around the corner and you're looking back at that wall and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, didn't I just scrub all that with a wire brush? So I was just curious on that one.
Does it have texture when you do that? I'm just trying to, I don't stand by pools often anymore. So.
I will say that it tends to be more old plaster that's rougher. And so part of my scientific analysis that I performed in the field was that it's probably just more in the rough patches, but it's still not like dusting off. So, but very yellow in color.
It is possible that algae can get kind of jammed down into looser or porous plaster. I mean, the older plaster gets, the more problems you're going to have anyway, because you're just inviting a place for all sorts of things to grow and reproduce. So
stay away, people.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's not how I would normally describe yellow algae in either particular type that we really focus on, but it's definitely possible that it's getting hung up in the surface itself.
I do want to give a couple shout outs here before we continue. Our boy Jay Money is on here, Jay, and so he's like, hey, brother, love her. She loves Alicia. I love Alicia. Lily Pad Pool Services says she's hitting the nail on the head. Big clapping hands out there. Big shout out to Mando, DM Pools. Thanks for coming on. Mama Flawless, Alicia is awesome.
What's going on?
Blue Edge Pools, what's going on? Desert Pool Solutions, big shout out to you out there as well. Thanks for jumping on, everybody. By the way, in the second part of this podcast, we are going to have a Q&A. So if anybody has any messages or any questions, send them on here. I'm not sure if my Restream notes are working. Are yours, Zach? Because mine went blank and I had to refresh the page and it hasn't loaded anymore. But
I don't use Restream. I monitor everyone individually.
Oh, is that what you do? That would make sense. So Alicia, it's funny that you say that because, you talk about the green algae and how, obviously there's different types and what works here might not work here. And one of the things that I remember listening to in the field, and this was a little while back, but a lot of pool pros would be at the store and they would say, hey, I don't know what's going on with the algae. It must be a new strain. It must be stronger because what used to work last year is not what's working this year.
And honestly, like algae does mutate, sure, but not in the way you're picturing it. Most of the time when that happens, I mean, I've been in the industry almost 25 years now, and I started when I was 2, just so you know. But we used to call it resistant algae, or, we had a term called small cell green algae and all these different things that were more resistant to chlorine or harder to get rid of. In reality, it's probably just a different strain of algae, and that can come from, anywhere. People say, well, where does algae come from? It comes from everywhere. It comes from your feet when you walk across the yard and get in the pool. It comes from the 2 ducks that stop by for a swim every day. The average bird has something like 85 different types of algae spores on it. And so if a bird stops by, it's dropping algae spores in. So algae is not something that we can keep out of the pool. It's just our job ultimately. I always say the pool will give algae everything it needs to grow unless we stop it. And so it's our job to make it a place that's inhospitable for algae to grow. But we can't stop spores from being introduced, and we can't determine really what kind of spores are being introduced. So it may just be the difference between it was chlorella last year, but it's syndesmus this year, and syndesmus reacts differently and it's harder to get rid of. So, and again, you can't tell the difference just standing by a pool. All you can see is that it's a green pool, and you expect that green pool to react the same way every time, and it doesn't always do that. So that's usually what's happening with that.
Right. So the best action plan, you go out, you treat it with something. Obviously that didn't work. Let's change the game plan, right?
Yeah, if you're using very specific products to do it, then yeah, if it doesn't respond to just chlorine, you need to add some copper to it, or if you use copper and it didn't respond to copper, then maybe try a polyquat, or some people use silver aldehcides. We don't personally do those at Biolab, but there are silver aldehcides out there. You can go the chlorine method if that's how you want to do it. But ultimately, try something different. Just repeating the same thing. You may eventually get it because you'll hit a threshold eventually that it works. But it's not the most productive way to go after the algae. So if you do your prescription and it doesn't work, change your prescription. It's like going to the doctor and they give you an antibiotic and it didn't quite get there, so they don't give you the same antibiotic. They give you something different, right? So it's kind of the same concept to that. Try something different.
Something different and something longer, because a lot of times when you go back to the doctor, they'll give you one, but now they go longer with that. So that makes sense. Hey, guys, let's do this. Let's take a quick word from our sponsors. When we come back, what we will do is, no pun intended, we'll do a deep dive into yellow algae.
Okay.
All
sounds
right.
Good. Yeah.
We'll be right back.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add reoccurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypack.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. We are here with Alicia Stevens.
You're not going to make me machine gun or anything, are you? I don't trust you anymore.
The machine gun algae killer, Alicia. Pew, 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 pew. So I'm going to post that one on social media on Monday for sure. We're going to be like, this is what we were doing to algae in the studio. Pew,
That's
pew,
right.
Pew, 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 pew. So anyways, hey, big shout out there to James on there, Andrea, which is my niece.
Oh,
Baby girl,
hello,
love you.
yeah.
Hope that you're doing good out there. SoFlo Pool Services, and we appreciate you guys jumping on. Thanks so much. So we are talking to Alicia Stevens. She is the Director of Training and Education for BioLab, and she's taking us to school today, right, Zach?
Oh yeah.
Have you learned one
Oh, yeah.
thing, Zach? That's all I always say, if you've been doing this a while, just learn one thing.
Absolutely.
So
I've
good.
learned multiple things, and that's my same philosophy. Just one thing and it's a win.
I taught a class not so long ago to somebody who'd been in the industry 20, 25 years, whatever. He'd been around for a while. And I said, this is a lot of review for you, but just learn one thing today. So through the course of the day, he kept going, there's one, there's two, there's three. Like at the end of the day, it's like, I learned 13 things today. So
Hey, big shout out to the real Seth. Thanks for jumping on and watching us live here on Instagram. So, Alicia, I think I want you to take us to school on to the next one, because obviously yellow algae is one of the tougher
Sure.
ones, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So do your magic. Take us to school on yellow algae.
yellow algae's a headache.
Let me learn 13 things. I'm going to
13
write them all
things?
down
All
right
right,
here.
let's
I got to
see,
go
let's see,
14 to
13
beat
things.
him. So
So yeah, yellow algae is something that I've heard a lot about, honestly, this year, and it's frustrating because it can be harder to get rid of, but it also has some characteristics to it that make it easier to get back. So a lot of times you'll find that once you have yellow algae, you end up with yellow algae more than one time, and there's a couple different reasons for that we could talk about, but ultimately it's definitely harder to get rid of than green algae. Takes a little more effort and a little more follow-up to make sure that you get it all and that you don't continue to have a problem with it. But there's a couple of different kinds of kinds of things that we would call yellow algae. One is probably the most common that we run into. It's an algae called Eustigmatos. There's a couple other things that are very similar to that, but you kind of get the family's Eustigmatos. And this algae, if you see it blown up under a microscope, it looks like an egg. So it's very, very smooth, very round, but it has this kind of hard eggshell around the outside of it. And ultimately, that eggshell is really what makes it more difficult to get rid of for a couple of different reasons. One, if we think about how chlorine works, and chlorine to be honest, is usually everyone's go-to for cleaning up an algae problem, right? Like, the pool's green. Let's start with a whole bunch of chlorine. The pool, we have yellow algae. Let's start with a whole bunch of chlorine. And in the case of yellow algae, chlorine is really not the most effective way to go after it, because if you really look at it under the microscope and it looks like this egg and it's got this hard shell around the outside of it, that shell makes it difficult, because remember we talked about how chlorine works, right? It pokes a hole, wiggles its way in, scrambles up the guts, and kills very quickly. But with that hard shell, chlorine has a hard time kind of poking through the outside of the shell. It's harder to get through. It's less effective at being able to get inside the algae cell in order to be able to kill it. And on top of that, that shell is made out of something called beta carotene. And that's probably a term a lot of people have heard before. But beta carotene you find it in supplements that you take to strengthen things, like you strengthen your hair or your nails or things like that. So we take it more as a supplement or a vitamin. But ultimately, if you think about that shell made out of beta carotene, which is a strengthener, means it's pretty tough to get through. And that's kind of what it's made of. But the other thing with beta carotene is it's an antioxidant. And so if you pick chlorine as your approach to killing mustard algae, chlorine's an oxidizer. Beta carotene, this whole layer that surrounds the yellow algae, is an antioxidant. What happens when those two things meet? The answer is nothing.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
kind of neutralize each other out. So, like chlorine, not only does it have to try to get through that strengthened hard shell, but it also is neutralized as it tries to do it, just because of the reaction between an oxidizer and an antioxidant, which you really want to dig into it. You're moving electrons around and basically taking away the power. So ultimately, when we try to treat something like yellow algae with just more and more chlorine, eventually you could overwhelm it and probably get the job done, but it's going to take a lot. When in reality, that algae cell, if you just put some copper in there, for example, then the algae's like, "Ooh, I'll eat the cupcake, no problem," and it doesn't matter about the eggshell or anything like that. So, oh, look. So you have to go at it a different way. Could you do it with chlorine eventually? You could, but that's not effective or efficient. So when you're struggling to get it and you're like, "Oh, it takes so long. I got to shock it so many times. I got to do this." That's because it's really not the best tool. I have a lot of hobbies at home. I do a lot of woodworking, and my thing is I got to have the right tool. Otherwise, I'm just going to struggle to get the job done, and you got to have the right tool. And in the case of yellow algae, for the most part, chlorine's not the right tool. No, it's a part of the process, because ultimately, when you have yellow algae in a pool, you'll also find a lot of times you have zero chlorine residual, because it's getting neutralized every time it comes in contact with the yellow algae. So you're still shocking as part of the process, because you've got to reestablish your residual, but you don't want to rely on chlorine to do the algae part of the work. So something like copper, it would be a lot more effective at getting in there, killing the algae, getting rid of it. So it's just all in how you approach it. Now, a couple of things about it, that shell that makes it harder to kill also makes it possible for that spore to live outside of water for an extended period of time. So think of that shell, it kind of holds in the moisture and holds in the life force of the algae cell. So when you put your net or your pole or your brush or something in there and those spores stick to it, or you put your pool float or your toys or your dive sticks, whatever it is you have in the water, and it comes in contact with mustard algae, those spores are able to stick to those things. And then when you pull them out of the water, those spores don't die immediately. So a lot of times what happens when you're like, "Oh, I just keep getting it over and over again." Well, are you wiping off your pole and your brush and your net? Are you, treating your pool toys and your floats and things like that? Because if you're not, every time you put that stuff back into the pool, guess what? You just put more spores back in. So you just reintroduce what you just tried to get rid of. And ultimately, it starts this, keep hitting that microphone. It starts this cycle of just over and over again. You just keep putting mustard algae back in the pool. Now, service people, a lot of times on your route, you'll say, "Okay, oh, great, I have 10 pools on this particular route, and, one of them has mustard algae. Now they're all going to have mustard algae." And you're like, "Must be the wind, must be the rain, must be the weather." No, it's you. Like, you do that because you carry the same brush pole net from pool to pool to pool, and you stick it in the pool with mustard algae. Those spores get stuck to it. You carry it to the next pool, you put it in, and guess what? You just introduced, if it didn't already have it, now you've introduced mustard algae to the equation. And then if you're not treating with a preventative algicide, again, you're trying to rely on chlorine to do all the work, then it has a chance to grow and reproduce and eventually cause a problem. So people are like, "What am I supposed to do about that?" And it's like, I got two suggestions for you. One, have every customer have their own set of tools. Leave them in the backyard. Use their tools, not yours. And they're like, "No, that doesn't work." Fine. You need to have two sets of tools. One set for algae pools and one set for not. So you're not carrying those spores. And then wipe your stuff off in between. If you have a pool that's a mess and you use your equipment, wipe it off. Make sure that you're not leaving any of those spores behind, because you are just introducing them back to the next pool that you put your equipment into. So
Yeah, and even if you have a brush and you're adding chlorine to it, right? And let's say in this case you're using liquid chlorine, why not just rinse off the brush and would that work?
well, but remember
It's harder.
that
Yep, good
hard
point.
shell is
Yeah,
not.
yep.
Yes, at high concentration.
At the
yes,
high
it would
concentration
probably
at
work.
12,
It would
yeah.
definitely help. Yes. But ultimately, you've got to do something to get
Right.
those spores off, so that you're not just carrying them to the next pool. So.
Yeah. So let's talk really quick about, and I think a lot of the pool pros are always asking this question is, How important is it going to be to clean the filter through this process?
So an interesting thing, I'm glad you asked that. An interesting thing that we found in the all that research that we did is that we identified eustigmatos. We expected that. We kind of knew that was there. But then we also grew some other stuff that looked like mustard algae, and when we put it under the microscope, it was something completely different. And it was actually diatoms, which we didn't really expect to see. Diatoms are different than eustigmatos for sure. They're single-celled, they're silica-based, they move around under their own little power, and I always say they have algae feet on them, but when you look at them under a microscope, they actually move, and it makes my skin crawl every single time, but they're different. They look completely different. They act completely different. But when you see them in a pool, it just looks like yellow algae.
Mhm.
Again, you're standing there, all you can see is color. It looks like, a lot of times it looks like sand or something like that on the bottom of the pool. Diatoms and eustigmatos don't really look any different on the bottom of the pool. So you don't know what you're dealing with. The thing with diatoms, though, is they eat silica to be able to grow, reproduce, and stay alive. So I always stop when I'm teaching class and go, okay, where do you have silica in your pool? Well, anybody that has a sand filter has a big, ball of silica right there. So ultimately, if you've got diatoms, which you don't know if you do or don't, all you know is you have yellow algae, those diatoms find their way into the filter and they sit there. It's like they went to the buffet line and they're just hanging out, like getting all of the nutrients they need to be healthy and happy and grow and reproduce. So you go in, you kill the algae, you brush it up, you do all the things you're supposed to do. But if you neglect to clean the filter, then those diatoms are still hanging out in the filter, eating everything they need to eat, reproducing. And then if you don't remove those, eventually what happens? Well, they're going to grow. They're going to reproduce to the point where they start to move on. You brush them or you wash them out of the filter, and where are they going to go? Right back into your pool. So by not chemically cleaning the filter, you're leaving them in there, letting them just hang out at the buffet line, eating and reproducing. And, eventually they're going to come back and cause you a problem. So cleaning your filter at the end of any algae treatment is effective to get, what might be left behind out of your filter media and reduce the chance that it's going to come back. But with mustard algae or yellow algae specifically, it's one of the most important things you can do. And it's often the reason why, again, you get that reinfestation and you say, oh, once I have mustard algae, I'm going to keep having mustard algae, simply because you didn't finish the process. So you killed what was in the pool, but there's still this bank of it, these diatoms in your filter. And we actually did an experiment where we had a bottle with growth nutrient and stuff in it, but it had sand in the bottom of it, and we dumped diatoms in to see, is it going to eat and grow on that sand? And we grew a puffy layer of them in there just by putting pool sand in the bottom of the bottle. So it was an interesting look at, what they would eat and how they would reproduce. So just cleaning the filter is a vital part of the process.
Yeah. Hey, big shout out to Primate Pool Tools is on here. Big shout out to your brother. By the way, we watched that little video. I don't know if you watched it, Zach, but that was really good, guys. That was a good one. And then Cannonball Pool Company, big shout out to you as well. And then Adam Gunter is saying, I'm familiar with diatoms for aquariums. There's silica and plaster as well.
There absolutely is silica and plaster. So if you let those diatoms lay on the surface without treating them, then they have a food source. Now it's easier to treat them out in the main body of the pool because they're not hidden away or buried in a filter media. So it's a little easier when you treat the pool itself. You're getting most of, you're able to treat most of those diatoms that would be on the surface. But yes, they absolutely can eat silica out of the plaster. They will also grow and reproduce on dirt. Dirt has silica in it. So when you're not vacuuming correctly or you're not brushing up things and getting rid of the debris that gets into your pool, you're just providing another food source for something like diatoms to grow and reproduce.
Yeah. So that process is, sorry, Zach, were you going to say something?
No, he's too busy ordering. He's too busy ordering filter cleaner.
Wait. Zach, let us see your notes. Look at all those notes. Yeah. And so, and I think it's important, for a lot of the pool pros. And again, we get really busy during the summertime. Sure. You're doing repairs. You're dealing with, customers' calls like John at 3 a.m. There's all these other things. But as soon as you get that algae, there's like that 2 or 3 step process that you need to know, that you need to do in order to be able to successfully eradicate it and get rid of it. If not, you're going to kind of be fighting that all summer. And there's nothing worse, Zach, than, and I totally get it, than having to get into one of those pools that you brush and it just doesn't come off. When you brush and it goes whoosh and it comes off, you're like, okay, great, it's gone. But to brush it, for it not to come on, and you know that you've treated the pool and you have to leave, and the customer's going to come out and they're going to be like, he just laughed, or
And
she
that
just
doesn't look
left.
good, yeah.
And that is still, and that's where, some of the complaints. But again, you can't, obviously, and when I was doing pools, Alicia, I didn't know about the that it would stick to your equipment. So I'm guilty of just using my same equipment to the next pool, to the next pool. And a lot of the stuff starts to, click and make sense. But obviously for a lot of the pool pros, right, you have to try those different products. If one of them doesn't work, you have to have the separate, brushes and stuff like that. If not, somehow you got to clean them. You got to get all that stuff off of it. In order to do that, you got to clean that filter, right? You got
To finish the process, you do. But, to kind of come full circle, to go back to what I said in the beginning, if you have a good solid preventative algicide in the pool at all times, even if you get diatoms that are introduced or use stigmatis or chlorella or, whatever, and you have that preventative algicide in, they don't have a chance to grow and reproduce in the first place because the algicide's in there busy, making sure that doesn't happen. So the algicide is what makes the pool inhospitable for algae. So if it never has a chance to grow and reproduce, to get an algae bloom, 10 cells become 100, become 1,000, become 1,000,000, become your 3 a.m. phone call, right?
Yeah.
And to keep that from happening, the preventative algicide just keeps him from being able to reproduce and do that. So I don't mean to harp on that, but it's such a big part of the process. Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know what it is, right? We as pool pros, at least me, I'll speak for me, at least for me, it was just like, I was not wanting to put the extra stuff. It's like you get into that mindset of you don't need it. And it's like, sure, you don't need it. But then once
Until you need it.
and then once I finally started using the copper, right? Because I was afraid. And a lot of it was probably ignorance because I didn't have all the education that I have today, right? But I didn't want to use the copper because the fear was I'm going to introduce copper and what happens if copper falls out, right? And then I have another problem and I don't know how to deal with that. And I'm not educated to deal with that, right? But I remember the first time that I just got to the point with this old plaster pool that I used copper, and I came back the next week and it was like, ta-da! And I'm like,
beautiful.
oh my God, like what have I been doing for years, right? But you have to try the different things. But to your point, prevent them, right? That's why you do it, to prevent, that from happening.
Keep it from happening. So even if you are, even if you carry a pole that came into contact with mustard algae to the next pool on your route, if that pool has a preventative algicide in it that's, effective, it doesn't matter. It'll just it zaps it, right as it comes into the water. So, or, even if your chlorine level drops to 0 because you had 6 inches of rain, it doesn't matter because you've got that preventative algicide in there getting, doing the work of keeping the algae from being able to grow.
Absolutely. Let's see. Let me backtrack over here for our people online. That AC is working overtime at the Pool Boys. It's 95 outside, and Zach is wearing a hoodie. Are you wearing a hoodie?
He sure is.
No, it's just a collared shirt.
It's your collared shirt. It does. You lifted it like that, and it did look like a hoodie.
It did look like a hoodie. Yeah. Wait.
Lift it.
Show us your. Oh, you can see his arms. He doesn't have a hoodie on. Yeah.
You know what it is? He's got them rolled up.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. He's got the hood tucked in the back.
So big question that came in here: thoughts on metallic algicides for preventive algicides?
So I get that question a lot, quite honestly. Copper is one of the most effective things we have to prevent and to treat algae. And there is kind of some.
Can I do a little timeout and interrupt?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I think this is awesome. So to our boy Aquabella out there in California, wonder how many of us are watching this sitting outside in front of a client's house in the truck. And then Blue Edge Pools, our boy from San Antonio, is going, yeah, I've got my phone on the Riptide holder. So big shout out to all you guys out there hustling out there. Sorry about that.
If you're out there poolside, put some preventative algicide in, will you? Come on. I'm trying to help you out here.
So sorry. So we were talking about the thoughts on metallic algicides for preventative algicides.
Yeah, so copper is very effective. Silver is also effective. Silver is a little harder to hang on to sometimes. So, but copper is very effective. And the the evolution of copper algicides in our industry has come a long way, quite honestly. There's a lot of different versions of them out there, but originally when we started using copper algicides, yes, you had to add a scale inhibitor or something to hang on to them. You had to, make sure they wouldn't fall out of solution. To your point, you were worried about it because you didn't want to introduce metals and cause staining and all that sort of stuff. But as we've evolved, there's plenty of algicides out there that are chelated, or chelating just means you're holding onto the copper, right? For those of you who may not know the term. But they're chelated in a way that they just don't fall apart. So you put the chlorine or you put the copper in, and it doesn't matter what your chlorine level gets to or what happens. It's that job of that chelator to just hold on to the copper, let it do its job, but never let it fall out of solution and cause staining. So yes, you're adding copper, and if you run a test, you're going to test for copper, but that copper is chelated in a way, and there's different versions of it out there, but it's chelated in a way that it doesn't fall out of solution. So you kind of have to pick wisely, but there's plenty of them out there that don't fall out of solution. If you use one that's not chelated as strongly, if you just add a scale inhibitor product along with it, then or a metal chelator product, there's lots of different versions of them, then you can just use that kind of independently to hold on to the copper and keep it from falling out of solution. So, but if you think about it, when you put copper in, the way it works is algae ingests it, and as it ingests it, that's what kills the algae and keeps it from growing. So people are like, well, I'm just going to keep building copper. You're not going to keep building copper because it's getting ingested and used up by the algae in the process of killing it. So when you put it in, you're really putting it in a pretty low level anyway, but it's not going to just keep climbing every week when you put it in, because you're using it up in the process of preventing algae from being able to grow.
So that copper that's added is used, it's gone. You don't have to worry about that part of it falling out of solution.
Right, correct.
'Cause it's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm with Edgar. I'm better suited for an office, but I'm still learning.
Wait, what did that?
I'm with Edgar on the fear of copper a little bit.
Okay.
And
Like he said, I'm better suited for an office. I'm like, bro.
He had his machine gun
you're better.
out.
Can you make the machine gun sound when you say
not
that?
doing it anymore. I'm not doing it.
So when it's chelated, if it's in the water and it's still in solution going around, is there a point where in time where that chelation or whatever you would call it stops being effective, and then you are exposed to potential staining?
That depends on kind of what version you're using. And part of the point I was making with preventative, algicides, or even with treatments, because when you put a treatment copper algicide in, it gets used up in the treatment process. It gets used up faster than what a chelator would break down. But if you say, for example, and this is another, we're talking in-season pool problems, metals can be a big issue. But if some people are rural, they use well water to fill their pools. Well water tends to be full of copper. Copper is not chelated when it comes out of your garden hose, so you have to add a chelator to it. And in that case, that chelated copper is probably at a level where, you're not, it's not going to just go away on its own. And that chelator that you're adding separately only lasts 30 days or so for the most part. So it's going to degrade and break down to the point where if you have copper, and a lot of times we'll tell our customers on well water, you got to put a chelator in every single month. Like once a month, it's part of your pool care program, because you have to re-up what's there to continue to hold on to the copper that's in the water. But
Got it.
I do get asked sometimes, well, will the copper in the well water kill the algae? But it will. I mean, copper is copper. So yeah, you have copper in your water. It will be an effective algicide for sure. But a lot of times with well water, there's a whole lot of other stuff you need to worry about with that.
You have to deal with.
Yeah,
huh? Yeah. So Adam is saying people are scared of them, but they can be very good.
They can be very good. I mean, our newest algicide that we have out is so anybody that's familiar with, we have it in a couple different places. We have a few different versions of it. Quite honestly, we have some with more bells and whistles and less bells and whistles, but we have 2 active algae killing ingredients in it. So for example, if you're using like our Pro Series dual action algicide, it has copper in it. That's one of the algae killing elements that we put in it, but it is chelated to the point where you can't break it down. Basically, it's a proprietary chelator to us, but it's something that you can shock on top of it. It doesn't break down over time. You're going to get, it's just really solid. So we don't have even a single thought about putting that in and staining a pool. We're not worried about it because we know that chelator is going to hold up with that.
Right.
So,
And everybody that's listening, so we did something a little bit different. A lot of times we don't talk about products, right? Because we don't want to mix, what it
Sure.
is that we're doing in education and stuff like that. But I think there's, and again, from when you took me to school yesterday, right? We decided to do something a little bit different in studio yesterday, and so we did some different videos on the different products, right? And what they have that treat the different allergies and stuff like that. So what I recommend for everybody is, this coming week, we're going to put up that video. We're going to put the natural chemistry page up. We're going to put that video of that education. A lot of what we talked about here, she goes to in a lot more detail in that training. I think it was like an hour and 10 minutes, something like that.
felt like 3 hours.
Felt like
but
3 hours.
No, it was about an hour. Really, we go through a lot of this information.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is at the bottom of that page, we're going to add some extra chapters on there to talk about the products and what are in there. We'll give the disclaimer. You guys are our sponsors,
Sure,
right?
yeah,
We're
yeah.
not sitting here trying to sell products, but what we figured is, because there's the different ones to treat the different types of allergies. And so if you guys want to check that out, you can check that out on probably Wednesday, and you can kind of watch those and see what the ingredients are, right? And now there's one that treats
And
the whole spectrum
our
versus
newest one is a nalgicide that treats everything that we were able to grow and identify. It treats. So it's kind of that magic, bullet of that's going to get everything.
It's gonna
depending
treat.
on, it doesn't matter what it is, which color it is, which type of which color it is. It's going to get all of that. So yeah.
So absolutely. And disclaimer here, you guys are our sponsors, but what's the name of that product?
The one we're talking about for that is the Pro Series Dual Action Algicide.
Okay.
Yep.
So you guys can go on to the Pullman University, check. We're going to create a natural chemistry page on all this, and it'll be up by Wednesday. Kind of click on those. I missed one take over here. Just kind of went boop, 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 boop,
Told you,
and we're
I like to
done.
talk.
You should have seen it, Zach. It was like this one, boop, okay, done. That one, boop, we're done. That one, boop. No. Anyways, South Florida Swims, big shout out to you out there. And yeah, listen to this. The Dodgers 2016 are listening.
Oh,
I'm sure it's a user, but
go Cubs.
Dodgers 2016. Just ignore her.
Yeah.
Just ignore her. Let's not. I'm a Dodger fan here, so hey.
Let's ignite a war. How about that? Hold on, let me get my machine guns.
So we're starting to run out of time. I wanted to talk about one more, which is obviously black algae.
Sure. Yeah.
So can you take us to school again now on a little bit on black algae?
Yeah, black algae is it's a little bit of a different ballgame. It's not algae at all. Technically, it's a cyanobacteria, so it's a little bit different. We did a little research on that in our process. We didn't learn a ton of new stuff about that. We kind of knew what it was, and there's not a lot of different versions of it. But what we found with black algae is it's really interesting in the way it grows. I'll keep saying black algae. Let me just be clear. It isn't algae, but that's how we know it in the industry, right? Yeah. So it's black algae. But so the way it grows is it becomes stationary on your pool surface, and it's able to stick to the surface. And once it becomes stationary and is able to stick, black algae grows in layers. And I always picture it, and me, I love my analogies, but picture like a triple scoop ice cream cone. What do? You have a scoop and then a scoop and then a scoop, right? And they just kind of stack on top of each other. That's kind of how black algae grows in a pool. So once you get that base layer down, it just starts growing. You get a growth layer, and then it puts this kind of hard shell over the top. And then you get a growth layer, and then you get another hard shell over the top. And then you get a growth, and it just keeps stacking up. So when you see black algae, when it becomes visible to you as a pool professional, you're already several layers in when you're able to see it. So ultimately, the key to getting rid of black algae is, chlorine's very effective against it. Copper is very effective against it. It's not hard to kill it, but the hard part about black algae is you got to get through all of those layers in order to be able to truly get rid of it. So brushing becomes a key element to getting rid of it. And not people like, well, I did brush. Well, how many times? I brushed it once, really good. I'm like, no, you have to brush it repeatedly, because you brush some layers apart, you kill that. You brush some more layers apart, you kill it. So you have to brush repeatedly in order to keep exposing all those layers in order to get all the way down to the base layer and be able to get rid of it. So it's not hard to kill it. It's just hard to uncover it to be able to kill it. But what we really found with black algae was to prevent it. It's, you have your preventative algicide in there. It's going to help prevent it anyway. But to prevent it from growing, the easiest way to prevent it was circulation. If you never let the black algae become stationary long enough to really grab a hold of your surface and get stuck, then it can't grow in those layers. And if it can't grow in those layers, it doesn't create the black algae problem. So people are like, how do I keep black algae from happening? It's always on my stairs. Well, that's because water, show me a pool that has good circulation on its stairs. It's almost impossible, right? They just don't really exist. So, of course, it's going to grow on your stairs. That's where water's not moving very well. Or older pools that have, we used to build rectangle pools with nice, sharp 90-degree corners in them, right? Which, first of all, with the advent of automatic pool cleaners, those don't work. And water doesn't, hit a sharp corner and take a 90-degree left. It just cuts that off. It rounds it off and flows around it. And it leaves kind of that sharp corner without water moving. It just cuts the edge of it off. So, I get black algae in my corners. That's because water's not moving there. And if you're not brushing, you're not stirring up what's sticking. So brushing the pool, once a week, really good, as I always say, whether it needs it or not, because it does. But brushing the pool is a great way to keep black algae from being able to grow, simply because it doesn't have a chance to get stuck to the surface and start growing in all of those layers. So that's one of the best things you can do. Now, I get all the time, especially from, in-use homeowners or whatever. I'm not brushing my pool this week. It looks fine. It doesn't need it. Your pool needs to be brushed once a week. And service people, don't cut that corner. Please don't cut that corner, because it needs to be brushed. Whether you think it does or not, it needs to be brushed. There's plenty of stuff you can't see that needs to be brushed off the surface. And I always, I like to give analogies, but I always challenge people. I'll be like, it's just like brushing your teeth. I'm like, what do you mean? You ever get up in the morning and forget to brush your teeth? Yeah, of course, everybody's done it, right? We at one point or another. A bunch of you listening out there probably just put your tongue on your teeth to see if you brushed them this morning, right? No lie, you did.
That's why Zach jumped off the
Zach
camera.
Just left, yeah. He's like, oh no.
So that he could check that really quick.
So you forget to brush your teeth. What happens? Well, Edgar, I'll just pick on you because you're right here with me. But if you didn't brush your teeth this morning, I could have a perfectly good conversation. I wouldn't know that, And so, okay, that's fine. We go through the day. In the morning, your teeth aren't so bad. But by the end of the day, what happens? You get fuzz on your teeth, right? We've all been there. Now, I can still have a conversation with you. I don't know you have fuzz on your teeth. I can't see that. But your teeth need to be brushed. And if you don't brush them, you're going to have a problem. Your pool gets fuzz on its teeth, for lack of a better way to put it. And you may or may not be able to see it. You probably can't in many cases. But you still need to brush all that stuff off so it doesn't have a chance to grow and reproduce to the point where you can see it. Because when you can see it, you got a bigger issue. So brushing for black algae, for prevention, brushing is one of the biggest things you can do. Just don't let it settle. Don't let it get to the point where it can grow in those ice cream scoop layers, and then you won't have to battle with it.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than brushing a pool in 90, 100-degree weather. It's like, oh my God, you see that black algae and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
People I get all the time, well, I have an automatic pool cleaner. I don't need to brush. I'm like, please just brush. If you're relying on your automatic pool cleaner, and that's okay, that's what they're there for, but please brush the corners and the stairs.
Brush
the corners and the stairs. If nothing else, please do that much, and you will find that you have a lot less problems in the pool.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Zach, you brush all your pools? Every step, every corner?
I am actually one of the worst pool guys because I do brush I am very inefficient. I am like the overlapper, every corner.
I like
to
that.
fault.
That's my favorite kind of pool guy.
You know how Zach would do, right? So we would get out there and just brush, right?
Yeah.
And Zach would be like, here's the line, and about a quarter of the brush has to overlay the
It's like mowing your yard.
Exactly.
That's exactly how I do it.
I need the lines, and so I'm sure that Zach's, if Zach was to go to his guys, hey, I'm going to ride with you, they'd be like,
oh man, I got to brush.
It's going to be a 10-hour day.
So we've talked about green algae.
Mhm.
We've talked about yellow algae.
Yep.
And then we've talked about black algae. Yesterday, you were talking about you shared that screen with the different graphs. And everybody go to the Puma University on Wednesday. You'll be able to watch the video there. She's got her slides in it. But there's a tendency for algae to be more prevalent at certain times of that. Can you talk a little bit about that and for each one of them? For all the pool pros that are listening or listen to this in the next couple weeks, listen to this part because it's going to be probably whatever stage you're in now of the summer to focus on that part.
Yeah, so it was interesting. What we found was that if you just split it into yellow, green, and black, because again that's how we are able to classify them, we found that they were more prevalent at different points in the season. I'll start with green because that's where we start. But green is most prevalent right now. We are in the heat of the summer, so late June, July, August, that's when we find the most green algae and we find it's most likely to grow. But those are also the months where it's hottest, the water's the warmest, we're more likely to not have chlorine residuals because 10 little leaguers were in your pool on Saturday and your bathroom floor never got wet, or something along those lines. So it's kind of a combination of we put a lot of contamination in our pools during the heat of the summer, and algae is more likely to grow in the warm weather, warm water. So you find that right now is when you're most likely to have green algae. Yellow algae was a little bit different. The most prevalent time for yellow algae was what I call the shoulder dates. So it tends to grow more in the beginning of the season and then more towards as the season is starting to wind down a little bit. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, it does like a little cooler water and a little less light. So, in those situations, it does tend to be cooler. You get less sunlight on the pool during a day, so you get a little more shade just because of the length of the day as it changes. So we find that often we'll find more yellow algae in the beginning and the end instead of right now. Be less prevalent right now. Black algae, we found mostly at the end of the season. And people are like, I don't understand. Why is that? I always say, okay, it's very simple why that is. What happens at the end of the season? It's still warm, right? Your pool's open, but the kids went back to school and now you're busy. Is anybody swimming? Probably not. Are you taking care of your pool? You might be sanitizing if we're lucky.
Not as much.
But you're not really paying it. You're not brushing. You're not vacuuming. You're not paying attention like you did in July when you wanted to make sure it was ready for swimming every single day. And that neglect is what leads to black algae is able to become stationary. It's able to start growing and build up in its layers. So we tend to find it more often towards the back part of the season, just from sheer, I call it neglect. I don't really mean neglect, but you're just not paying as much attention to your pool. So it's a different ball game, in September than it is in July. And that's when we're more likely to see black. Also, take some time for all of those layers to grow to a point where you can actually see them. So it's, it's not something that your pool doesn't grow black algae overnight. It's going to be a gradual process until you notice it. So it takes a little more time. So it gets started maybe in late July, but it takes a while to get to the point where you can see it.
Gotcha. Hey guys, let's do this. Believe it or not, it's already 12:51.
I know, that's no fun at all.
Time flies, right?
We said in-season pool problems, and we just really did in-season pool problem.
we haven't gotten into the in season yet, right?
That's okay. That means I'll have to come back.
Let's do it. So just be prepared next time that I'm going to sit here and you're going to host.
Cool.
And you're going to be a guest and you're going to answer all the questions. And Zach and I will just sit here and just watch you play all three people. You can totally pull it off.
I could do it. Yeah. I'll do it.
We don't need the rest of y'all here, though. It can just be a solo
It's me
show.
and Spider. You guys aren't invited. It's me and Spider hanging out for the day. Every once in a while, I'm just going to go like this, and he's going to gong me, and it's going to be great. Wait.
Uh-oh. Why didn't it work? Try that again.
There you go.
It only took...
It'll be simple. Be like, Edgar's not here. Zach's not here.
So, we can pre-record some stuff and you could just play it.
There we go. Yeah.
play it
No,
right
I'll come back and we'll talk more. You know me, I'm a nerd. I like to talk chemistry. So
Awesome. All right. So, stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back after these messages.
Okay.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. Today, we are talking to the one and only Trainer of the Year, Pool Nation Awards 2023.
One of the best nights of my life. Thank you.
Alicia Stevens.
I remember what we were talking about.
What was it?
Spider was giving me a hard time for drinking an old fashioned out of my trophy.
Oh, I wasn't giving you a hard time.
No.
I have a video of Alicia.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Can we play it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'll have to do it towards the end because I got to get it into the computer.
Get it into the computer. Okay, so here's
But
what we'll do.
I thought you were chugging a beer. This whole time since last November, I thought you were chugging a beer, and it turns out it was an old fashioned. That is wild.
If you look down in the trophy, I do remember this. There's an orange floating around there.
So we are going to play that here in a minute. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to do some final thoughts, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give Spider a little extra time, so I'm going to get your final thoughts as well.
All right.
Alicia Maria from Ensenada, which, by the way, Maria, we love you. Like, we love you a lot. She's amazing. Ensenada Pools. Alicia, I'm already brushing.
Yes, I my work here is done.
Done, right? So, Poolco Tech, what's going on? Cheryl Krause, how are you? Gypsy Pools, big shout out to you out there. South Florida Swims, big shout out to all you guys out there. Thank you so much for everybody jumping on today and listening live. Mr. Zacharias, let me get some final thoughts on you.
Now this was perfect timing right now.
It was,
this
right?
podcast. Yeah. This
Well,
has
here's-
been a hot
here's-
topic.
Here's the beauty, Zach. Here's what I want people to understand, and John talked about it, which, by the way, I'm going to throw you in the hot seat. Will you do an Instagram Live next Wednesday?
Sure.
Boom. Everybody that's listening, prep your questions. We're going to have Alicia next Wednesday on our Instagram Live.
You're gonna have to remind me of that.
And we'll do that. So so Maria says, I love you guys too. Thank you so much, Maria. So I lost my train of thought because I kind of went down that path.
Final thoughts from Zach. That's where you were.
I was talking about this is perfect timing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So what I want to do is I want to take a second to truly thank you, to thank BioLab, to thank Natural Chemistry, because we were having these issues. We're getting a lot of calls. And we totally understand that it's not easy to stop everything that you're doing, to jump on a plane, to go stay somewhere, to do the video that you did for us to be able to put on the Pool Man University, right? This is a 2-day event for you guys. And for you guys to be so amazing and for your company to be like, absolutely. And we know that costs thousands of dollars for you guys to stop what you're doing, to put you on a plane, to come out here, to help us educate, to help us do all that kind of stuff. So I want to thank you. I want to thank BioLab. I want to thank Natural Chemistry, everybody there, because you guys are just absolutely amazing. And Pool Pros, a lot of times people go, oh, well, that's easy. Well, there's a lot of things that have to fall into place in order for that to happen. And Alicia's very busy. She deals with the retail side education. She deals with the pool price side education. She deals with all the training, all the education. It's not always as easy as, let me jump on a plane and kind of come down. So thank you for that.
I'm happy to be here always. If I can come, I always will.
Yes. So let's see here. Kraus/Booth family listening from vacation on the beach.
Oh,
That's
I'm
what
jealous.
I'm talking about. Big shout out to you, Cheryl, out there. And Gypsy Pools, I'd love to be on. We're not your traditional pool company. So big shout out to the Gypsy Pools out there. All right, Zach, sorry for the interruption.
No, I mean, that's good stuff. So Alicia saw the green pool in the sky and answered the call. I think it's funny. I mean, algae happens, right? And I have this conversation with customers a lot. It's kind of setting the expectation of like, we try to be perfect and we try to hit it 100% of the time, but sometimes things will happen, and it's how we respond to it that makes us, a success. So I think some of the things that you talked about today, it's like I've heard these before, but I talk about it all the time. There's just something where when you're at a certain point in your journey and you hear something, and it could be the 5th time or the 10th time, it just finally clicks. And so there's a lot of things today that it's like, as I've been in the field kind of handling some of these problems, troubleshooting, trying different things, it's like, okay, now that's starting to click. And, hopefully I'll retain that for the long term. Some of it I probably won't, but a lot of it I will. And I'm just excited to be able to see what you guys came up with in the studio and kind of rewatch it, relive it, and then be able to share a lot of this with my team. Because there is nothing more defeating when you're out there. And like Edgar said, you walk around that corner and it's like, and then what do I do? And, like you said, sometimes you're doing these treatment plans and it's not effective. And then what do I do? So I'm just super excited to see what you guys came up with and be able to share that. And I think next year will be a little bit more proactive than reactive, because you never know what the year is going to bring. This year is completely different in what we're dealing with right now than what we dealt with last year and the year before. And so I think our approach needs to be a little bit more proactive, understanding that we don't know what next season's going to hold.
Agree 100%. Mr. Todd Pieri, great job, Alicia. Always great listening to you. I always learn something.
Oh, thanks for being on, Todd.
So appreciate that, Todd. All right, young lady.
Final
thoughts.
Huh? Well, first of all, I need a shirt that says algae happens. So I got to see if I can come up with that. I'm like, yeah, algae does happen. That's
I
right.
like that.
Algae happens.
I like that.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to have one for John that says Silver Fox.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Mine, obviously. What's your number?
What's your number?
Yeah, what's your number? And then yours is going to be algae happens.
Algae happens. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I like it, Zach.
Yeah.
Zach, we need one for you. What is it going to be?
I don't want to know.
Sorry, interrupted there. Squirrel.
Okay, final thoughts. First of all, thank you for having me. Always happy to be here, and I'm very appreciative of BioLab for being accommodating and allowing me to come and address this and talk about this. We're very passionate about education, and I'm very passionate about education, so always happy to be here and help out. I guess my final thoughts are, I hope everybody learned one thing today, and ultimately, if I can give you the best piece of advice that I can give as far as algae goes, it's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of chlorine. And that's really the best advice I can give. So don't wait for there to be a problem to figure it all out. It's so much easier if you just stop the problem before it ever has a chance to happen. So preventative algicides are some of the best. That's a corner that a lot of people cut. Whether it's service professional, homeowner, whoever, retail, customer, that's something, because like, well, I don't need an algicide. My pool's not green. Well, we don't want it to get green either. So my final thought is really consider if you're not adding a preventative algicide to your routine. It will make a huge difference, especially in a summer full of rain and storms and things like that. But those are my thoughts.
Awesome. So Eric, I'm sorry, Eric is on here. Great podcast. I like Alicia even more now knowing that she drinks old fashions.
Oh, all right,
Not
Eric.
just-
when
not
we
just drink.
when we end up in the same place, but
Yeah.
we will have one together.
And we close it off with Ripple Effect Pool Service. And he's got 3 words.
Mhm.
Brush, brush, brush.
That's right. That's right.
So anyways,
Hold on.
before we go, here's what we want to do. Spider, you want to do the intro to what you're doing?
Yeah, so after the award show and after the after party, so I guess this was like the after party. Right. And had,
That was past 1 o'clock in the morning.
It was. This
I
is
couldn't-
before the donut in the shower.
I couldn't tell you. By that time, I was just there. But we ended up on like the ground floor of whatever hotel we were in at the time. Found a place to drink, get some food and whatnot, and keep celebrating basically. So that's what this video is. A little post award show celebration from Alicia. Are y'all ready?
Yeah,
Never. I'm never ready.
I have a little bit of a lag on my Instagram that I was hoping to watch that it would catch up, but let's roll it because I'm sure it'll catch it up.
It will.
All right.
Hey!
No, I think I'm already on it.
So,
I didn't know what you wanted, so I just...
no, it's good. Cheers!
Cheers!
All right, here we
Will you
go.
send me whatever you got?
Cheers!
That's the beer version. Go.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not waterproof. You're leaking.
Oh,
There was an orange floating around in that thing at the end of it.
that is probably one of the best videos that I've seen. And Zach, one of the best things, and I've got pictures of it, Alicia right now was grinning from ear to ear like I've never seen her grin that much before.
That was I have a buddy that was out with us, and he said, my favorite thing I've ever heard you say in your whole career was that night. And I said, oh no, what did I say? And he goes, you kept saying, I never want this night to end. So it was a lot of fun. And again, I'm humbled and honored to be chosen as trainer of the year. We had a good time celebrating.
We're going to continue it in Dallas this year.
Let's hope so. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right, baby. Yeah. So big congratulations on that. Very well deserved. Last minute question here. Smoke devices, could that cause allergy? I'm assuming the vape things may be falling into the pool, Maria?
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure what correlation that would have, quite honestly.
Fell in, if it's got nicotine and it's got all that kind of stuff into the pool?
Probably not a contributor to algae specifically. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm assuming she's.
I mean, congratulations. I have never been asked that question before.
There you go. But I could see those, with everybody vaping nowadays, I could see a lot of those ending up in the pools. Especially if you're having parties.
Depending on how much of it could lead to some cloudy water maybe or chlorine demand or something like that, but probably not.
You got to bring the guy in the lab of vape now and tell him to...
I went on the Pool Nation podcast. They asked me to buy this little vape thing. Can you test that for me?
Yeah, you'd be amazed at some of the things that we've carried in there. Can you test this? They're like, why? I'm like, somebody needs to know. I don't know.
That's amazing. So we are going to end the podcast here, but... before we do that, spider, what is it? How is it that Alicia kills algae nowadays?
I think it's with a machine gun, right?
Wait, I got it. Are you ready?
Ready? Go.
Okay.
Oh, no. Why does this all keep failing?
I can do better than that, Spider.
All right, let's try it again then.
One day we will get it right.
What do we do to Spider when he misses his cue?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Oh, that was awesome.
One more cue, Spider.
We've had some fun with Spider here today. So, anyways.
There we go.
There we go. So thank you so much for coming and joining us. She is going to join us next Wednesday on our Instagram Live. So stay tuned, everybody. If you have more questions, bring them there. Send them on the app. Stay tuned. We will talk about the products on the app. Obviously, we'll have that up by Wednesday so that you could talk about that. I did get from, let's see here. And this was, by the way, a text. What was the name of the product that treats all of the algae?
Oh, Pro Series Dual Action Algicide. That's the one I was talking about.
Dual action. Get it? Dual action for more than one,
algae killing
right?
ingredients, yeah.
There you go. That's pretty good. So, anyways, thank you so much for joining us, everybody out there. Hope that you guys have a great weekend. We will catch everybody next Wednesday. Have a great one.
See ya.
The Hyper. Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or PoolNationPodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at Pool.Nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to PoolInvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. PoolmanUniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at PoolmanUniversity.com.